Thank you for joining us. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. On the program today, we're going to be talking about a fascinating subject that I think a lot of people would be interested in, especially with the approach of 2012. The book is The Keys to the Universe, and our guest today, who's joined us on the program before, is Miss Diana Cooper. Access the ancient secrets by attuning to the power of the wisdom of the cosmos. Wouldn't we like to know what that power is and maybe how we can use it ourselves? I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today our guest, Miss Diana Cooper. Diana, thank you for joining us again.
Hello, it's lovely to be here.
Now, how did you first get involved with this kind of work, sort of your life's calling, if you will?
I suppose it started when I was 40. This is a rather a long time ago. And I was just at rock bottom, and I had no spiritual beliefs or understandings whatsoever, but I threw myself into a chair and asked for help, and an angel came in and showed me my life path. And although I had a long way to go, that really made a difference. And then 10 years later, the angels came back and they said, we want you to teach people about angels.
Ah, now that must have been...
Very reluctant to do so, but I did. And since then, I've written 19 books for them, and I've just written some children's books as well to open children up to the spiritual understandings. And last year, I said to my friend and co-author of this book, I'm not going to write a book this year. I've been too busy. I'm going to rest. And my guide promptly came in and said, I want you to write another book, and it's to be called The Keys to the Universe. Well, we were a bit staggered. I mean, that's very presumptuous to write a book like this. But he said, that's what we want, and we can't give you the information until January 2010. You can start to write it then. And so in January 2010, we met, and we lit a candle, and we meditated. And we talked to my guide, Kumikar, for a little while. And then suddenly, the light in the room dimmed, the candle went right down, and we knew somebody of a vast energy was trying to come through to us. So we went into deeper meditation, and then our eyes flew open at the same moment, and we said, it's Source. We've got Source with us. And he came in to tell us how important this book was, and how it was the first time this information was available to humanity since the fall of Atlantis, and that we really had to hold our energy very high and pure in order to bring the information through. I mean, he also told us some personal things, but they're mostly things like have a holiday or see more of your children, things like that. Don't overwork. And so from that moment, we really focused our energies on maintaining the purity to bring this information through. So there are 50 keys to the universe, 48 keys and 2 master keys. And when you tune into one of them and you really understand it, then you expand your consciousness. But if you tune into them all and you understand them all, as they're given very simply in the book, then you become an enlightened ascended master. And so this is the first time that this has been possible with the steps all laid out.
Wow.
And I think it's very fascinating because there are simple ones that everybody can understand. For instance, the bird kingdom, one of my very favorites. All birds are here to teach. They don't come here to learn anything. They're only here to teach us. And they're generally teaching us about living in lightness and joy, and you can maintain a physical body and yet fly by keeping your vibrations high. But every single kind of bird teaches us something else. For example, if you see a hummingbird, and you might even just see it on television, but it's imparting the wisdom of Lemuria, the ancient civilization of Lemuria, to you. And the dawn chorus, the songbirds that sing it, they are singing about the cosmic currents for that day. And the ancients used to tune in and understand what was going to happen that day. And even if we do it unconsciously, we can still download some information. And you know, if you've ever heard a bird singing its heart out, and it seems to be singing just for you.
Mm-hmm.
That bird is singing to you about your magnificence, your divine magnificence. And when we understand this, then we can stop and look at it and learn those lessons. And even owls, for instance, everybody associates owls with wisdom. And indeed, they have wisdom and they have vision. But they also work with the elementals at night. They teach them and protect them. And they clear unwanted negative energy from the whole area where they live. So every bird is doing something and helping us in some way. And I find that really, really fascinating. And there is a CD with the book, and every single key has a sound associated with it. And when you listen to the sound, it helps you attune to the wisdom held within the key. And, for instance, the bird kingdom, the sound is the sound of the dawn chorus. So you can listen to that on the CD and start to unlock that key for yourself. So I think it's all very simple, but yet completely fascinating.
I certainly agree. I know there was a time that I was out at a park, actually it was sort of a real woody park, and there was, I sort of like to take my time when I'm going through these areas, and there was one point where I stopped because there was a bird, and the sound of the bird was just very intriguing to me, so I stopped, and I was listening and kind of tuning in, and all of a sudden, just like you were saying, it seemed like the bird was actually talking to me. And what had happened is slowly other birds of its type were starting to kind of come to it. It was almost like it was its own little choir. And what was funny about that is, even though I was enjoying it just totally on my own, is that throughout the park there were these little signs, kind of explaining, what certain trees were and so forth. And one of the things they talked about was these particular birds that said if you stop, kind of stay silent for a minute in the area, you'll be surprised what these things do. And I was like, well, I discovered this thing all on my own, but now here's a sign confirming that this is what these particular birds do, that if you'll stop and kind of give them your time, you'll be very surprised and delighted at what they'll do for you. And it was just really an amazing and empowering situation to be in.
How wonderful. And they sang just for you.
They did. They were looking at me and curiously kind of coming forward. They were the sweetest little birds, too, and it was just very enjoyable. Let's talk about some of the other important keys that people should know about that you talk about in your book.
Well, one of the golden cosmic keys is Hollow Earth. Now, a lot of people have heard of Hollow Earth, but really don't know what it is. And what it is an energetic space or cosmic chakra. It's seventh dimensional in the very center of the Earth. And it holds the seventh dimensional divine blueprint of the planet. And also all the ancient knowledge of Earth. And so there's no sun and moon because it has its own separate divine masculine and feminine energy sources. And it has in the very center a great crystal pyramid. And this is where all the knowledge of Earth is held. And this receives information directly from Source and from the 4 ascension planets. And also it has portals that come into it which are connected to the stars. And the wisdom from the different star systems also pour into it. So if you sit in it in meditation or in your sleep, then you can start to download into your consciousness, waken up yourself as a universal being with all that information. So it is completely fascinating. And it contains all the keys of the civilizations that we've ever had, the 5 golden ages on Earth, the cultures, for instance, all the cultures that came from Atlantis and the culture from Lemuria, which is the Aborigines. Also the cosmic portals, each of which gives you such amazing information and feeling and helps you. And it also has the keys to the kingdoms. And I've just talked about the bird kingdom, but there's also the elemental kingdom, the angelic kingdom, the devic kingdom, the ocean kingdom, lots of kingdoms, all of which contain energy. Now, I talked about the portals. And in America, for example, Mount Shasta is a very powerful portal which contains one of the keys to the universe. And it connects to Lemuria, the energy of Lemuria within Hollow Earth, in the center of the Earth. And it's linked to the Pleiades, and the Pleiades is a healing planet, and so, or a star, or whatever it is. And so it brings the energy and healing from the Pleiades right through the Earth into Hollow Earth. And when we go into that portal, we just tune into it, or we ask to be taken there, we can work with that healing energy. And all of the things are very simple. You can just ask to go there in your sleep, and you will start to receive the energy and the information. There is a portal which I find very, very interesting in Honolulu. And that is just starting to open now. They're mostly opening around 2012, but this one is opening already. And it's radiating out, emitting this pink energy of pure love. And this is helping to bring families together, because most families, or many families, should I say, they're either they have to please somebody in the family. They can't always do exactly what they want. They can't be free, or they want to escape and they go off to Australia or somewhere distant so that they're not so close. But when this new energy starts to come in and families take it in, they will be able to be close and friendly and yet totally express themselves. And this means that the children being born are going to feel so much safer, because they are held within a family that is totally in harmony. And that particular portal is also sending out this energy to raise people's sexuality. And that means that people will no longer, things like AIDS will start to decline very rapidly, because people will have raised their sexual frequency, so AIDS can't get a hold in them. It will also help teenagers so that they can make wise decisions instead of just acting from their emotions of that moment. And so that one portal is making a massive difference to what's happening on the planet.
That's also very
interesting. There's one, the Cosmic Pyramid in Tibet, and that's one of the portals linked to Sirius. And this holds all the information and knowledge about the Great White Brotherhood, about peace and eternal life. And when you tune into it, you can start to connect to that energy and move your consciousness, expand your consciousness. And the sound of the sound key for that portal is the sound of the wings of a dove. So it's all tied together. The sounds are very much tied in with what is happening energetically in the key.
Now, one of the things that I find interesting about this particular book is that you share what the keys of the universe are. What will be the benefits if people tune into these things?
Well, as I say, with the key of Honolulu, what you'll get is closer family relationships, a feeling of belonging, rather than any fractures that there may have been in the past. It cuts all the old negative cords and ties. Then, if you're wanting more peace, you might tune into the Cosmic Pyramid in Tibet. Now, we've had ancient civilizations that have carried enormous wisdom, like the golden period of Atlantis. And so that holds one of the keys. When you tune into it, and each one has a little meditation that you can use, and you listen to the sound, then you can start bringing back your gifts and your wisdom from Atlantis. And almost everybody was in Atlantis. And if they weren't, they would have been mostly in Lemuria. And that was a hugely healing time when the Lemurians passionately loved the planet and wanted to heal it. And so you can tune into the keys of Lemuria and bring back the wisdom of that time. You can listen to the messages of the animals, and they will teach you something. Because every animal has come here either to learn or to teach, and often both. And every one of them is going to teach you something that will enable you to grow. For example, lots and lots of people had pandas, little toy pandas, when they were babies or children. And one of the reasons for this is that pandas come from the Pleiades, along with pigs and sheep. But pandas are connected to Mother Mary and the cosmic heart. And so when you cuddle a panda or think about one, it opens your heart center and starts to connect you with the cosmic heart. And that's why babies and almost everybody loves pandas.
Mm-hmm. Now, Diana,
I'm telling you something. I mean, there are lots of animals that come from Orion, which is the planet of wisdom. And so, for example, a cat. A cat is in your household. It's very wise and enlightened, and it's protecting you. It's watching over you. And if a negative energy comes in or a spirit that you don't want in your house, the cat will chase it away, and it will cleanse your home of those energies. And in Atlantis, when the energy started to go down, the first thing that the mage did was to send to Orion for more cats to try and maintain the frequency. And the big cats, like the tigers, they are watchers of the planet. So your domestic cat is the watcher of your home. And the tigers and the lions, they perform the same function for the planet. This is why we really, really need to protect them and look after them and make sure we have plenty of them, because they're making sure that if something does get through the aura of Earth, they will send it on its way.
fascinating stuff. Now, when it comes to ancient civilizations, as you were talking about, Lemuria, there's Mu, Petranium, why are these significant to our times? I know you described that just a little bit, but what, because you take a look at, for instance, what's going on in Egypt, and all of a sudden there seems to be all this upheaval now of, I guess, societies that have been sort of under dictator rule, and all of a sudden now people are saying, we don't want this anymore. And that's making kind of big news. Is this going to be something that's going to be kind of continuing, do you think?
What is happening in the Middle East is the light is rising very fast. And it's happening everywhere in the world too. But where you've been subjugated and in the dark, you'll put up with it. But when it becomes light, you'll no longer want to put up with it. And that's what's starting to happen. But also, they were very affected, especially Egypt, by the energy from Atlantis, the negative energy from Atlantis. And that is starting to clear. And so that is setting these countries free so that they can grow. So, yes, they are all affected by what's happening in those places. Africa, for example, there was a huge amount of black magic in Africa, and that's what's holding the country back, because it's locked in the earth and it's been locked in certain crystals. But the Lemurians set incredibly powerful healing crystals in the land, specifically for this 20-year transition from 2012 to 2032, when the new golden age comes in, when there's a new blueprint for the whole of humanity and for the planet, which is why we're living in such extraordinary times. But Lemurians are coming forward now, and they're learning to deal with the crystals, how to use them, and how to heal what's happening within the earth and within people. And so this is going to rapidly shift the energy in Africa and in other countries of the world. And Angala, I think this is very fascinating, because I had never heard of Angala, but this is the period of the birthing of this planet. And that was a moment that is eternal, and it's not always easy to understand time, but because we see it in third-dimensional slow motion. But on another level, all time is eternal. And that means that if you have a project or an idea that you want to birth, and you tune in, and we show you how in the book, to the energy of Angala, that will help your project to go forward in a beautiful way. And I also knew very little about the golden age of Africa, Petranium, and they had enormous, extraordinary skills. Seventh-dimensional people walked the planet at that time in Africa, and they could take the minerals, could tune into the mineral energy within the earth, and they could use their thought power and water to take the essence of the mineral without disturbing the earth, without mining it or damaging it, so that they could use it where it was needed. They could control the rain and use water, move it to exactly where they wanted to. And at that time, the whole of Africa was green and fertile. They loved and honored the earth. And that energy must also start to come back after 2012, and probably not until 2032 or just beyond.
Fascinating.
Every single one of these keys also has a very practical purpose. It helps you to understand your life. I haven't touched on the keys of Sirius yet. And Sirius is the place of the higher mind, higher awareness, enlightenment. And all the Syrians have developed their higher minds. And there are training schools and universities in the etheric of Sirius. So you can ask during your sleep time to go to them for higher learning. The new spiritual technology is coming through because people are going there to learn, and it's also coming through in the new children being born that are already programmed with the spiritual technology so that they can bring it forward for the new golden age. And the keys to part of the wisdom of Sirius are in the book. There are 12 keys. And when you hear the sound of the 12 keys together, which we give on the CD, it opens your consciousness to higher awareness and advanced concepts that we need to take us into the new golden age. Because remember, 2012 marks the end of a 260,000-year cosmic era, and so it's like a house move. We have had, at the end of each 26,000 years, we've had a moment of change. But now this is a mega, massive house move. We have to explore the attics, clean everything out, decide what to take with us, explore the cellars. Everything that's been hidden is coming to the surface, which is why WikiLeaks, for example, is exactly on right time. So all karma has to be released, everything has to be explored. And then there's an 11-year in-breath until 2023, and at the end of that time, we have a calm period for 9 years before 2032, when there's a fresh blueprint for Earth, for humanity, for the universe, so that the next golden age can start at a higher frequency than this one. Mm-hmm. But in addition to that, there are 12 universes, as we know, and we live in a fourth dimensional one. And all the universes are moving up to another dimension, starting in 2012. So there's a 20-year transition for all the universes. They're all moving together. The 12th dimensional universe is reabsorbed into the Godhead, and a new first dimensional universe is created. But one of the problems we've had on Earth is that it's a fourth dimensional universe, but Earth has, until last year, been third dimensional. The reason for this is because we have free will here. And beings from all over the universes have come to Earth to experience this free will. And unfortunately, they've held us back. Other reason is because Earth is the solar plexus of the universe. And so you hold fear in your solar plexus. Fear is passed through you and transmuted. So all the fear of any part of the universe has come through Earth, and we, the human beings, have had to transmute it. And so that's the reason why we've been held back. And so now we have to make this massive shift to get to the fifth dimension by 2032, because the whole planet has to be in the fifth dimension by that time. So there's a massive time of shift and movement right now. And we have, obviously, our souls have chosen to incarnate to be part of this and to help everybody else on by moving forward ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Now, The book has been out there. I was going to ask you, Diana, how have people received it? What are some of the common things that they say, how does this really pertain to my life, for instance?
I think most of the people that are reading this book are either absolutely ready to move forward, and so the angels have brought it to them to waken them up, because it's a very fast awakener, or they're already very evolved and they want to move into being an enlightened ascended master. And this book offers all the tools to do that. And so I've only received comments of, oh wow, this has really helped me. This has made an enormous difference. I've discovered that when I tune in to, say, the sacred geometry of Sirius, it's made me understand for the first time how to use the sacred shapes, because it's not about a shape that has an angle of this, like we learn in a left brain way. It's about shapes affect the flow of the cosmos. And if you sit, for example, in a square, then there is a different feeling or energy around you than if you sit in a circle. Mm-hmm. And so that it's much more about the flowing of the energy. And in fact, there is a sacred geometric shape for every chakra, which helps the flow of the energy of the chakra. So I give those all in the book. And you can feel the difference between them when you work with them. And it helps your chakras to develop and expand also. For example, the energy in the third eye is not surprisingly a figure of 8. That is the symbol of the third eye. But it also ties in with other things. Unconditional love is one of the qualities for golden earth, and that is a figure of 8. That is the symbol. All qualities also have a sacred geometric symbol. They create something in the etheric around you when you work with a particular quality. And the keys of Sirius are very interesting because I think we all know it at a certain level. But time goes very slowly if you're standing in the rain and feeling miserable. And the reason is because you're in the third dimension. But if you raise your frequency to the fourth dimension or the fifth dimension, in the fourth dimension you know you need to do something, you know what you need to do, but you haven't taken action. But in the fifth dimension, you're living in a space of flowing with the universe, and time inevitably flows very quickly for you, and things flow well. And if there is a delay somewhere, you absolutely know and accept that it's because it's meant to be at another time. And when you accept that, there is no angst about it, no worry about it. You literally flow, and time then flows very quickly. So if things seem to be going very slowly, the answer is to raise your frequency. And you can do that in a million ways that I describe in the book. By changing your thought forms, by changing your breathing, by calling in the angels, by doing something that fills you with joy, by walking in nature. All of those things help your frequency to rise.
Now, one of the things that's really interesting about this, I suppose it holds a sense of hope for people, is that it isn't just that we'll have personal peace, but it's also the idea that we'll have, I guess, trying to think of the right word to use here, I guess prosperity, but in a different way than what we think or that we're used to.
Yes, what we're heading for in 2032 in the fifth dimension is cooperation between people, everyone working together. There won't be any of this silly nonsense of banks, because money won't have the same meaning as it has now. People will be exchanging, and people will always work for the highest good of everybody. Now, if everybody in a community is working in a friendly fashion for the highest good of everybody else, then you don't have the same concerns or worries that you have now. You automatically have abundance because you know that just as you support everybody else will support you. And this is a magical, magical shift that is taking place. By 2032, new golden cities will have arisen. And they're golden cities because they will have a golden aura. And the people will all be working together in harmony and using sacred geometry within the buildings, within the streets, and everywhere, so that everything flows harmoniously. And people will be moving into communities, self-sustaining communities, to support each other. And if you know that if you have an accident, that your neighbours will all rally around and support you, then you don't worry so much about having who's going to look after me. All of that will just dissolve and disappear. And that's a huge, huge cloud in the collective consciousness right now. And when that is dissolved into golden energy, things will be different. By then, almost all of the world will be at peace. There are a few places that we still need to send a lot of energy to, but what we have seen, what is happening in front of us in the Middle East is amazing. I've put out on my Facebook and in my newsletters for people to call in Archangel Butalel, who is the cosmic angel. We were told that, yes, angels of peace are great, call them in, but Butalel is the one who can clear all the energies to enable a country to move forward. And so that's what we've been calling forward for Egypt and now other countries, to help them to find their freedom and to go with the flow at a higher level. But we still need many, many people praying for leaders to step forward who have the good of the people at heart, who absolutely understand and are with the people, and who are wise and act with integrity. And if all of these countries, if we send enough energy out for this, and such people then step forward, that is the greatest help that many of these countries can have.
Now, how does all of this look when it comes to, for instance, big government and big business? Do we see these things kind of on their way out, or what's going on there, do you think?
This is part of my book, 2012 and Beyond, because already in the angelic kingdom, the principalities, who are the angels who look after big business and that sort of thing, huge schools and organizations, there are bands of them that have been formed to help conduct out the dinosaur businesses, because they're all now collapsing. Anything that is no longer in tune with the new vibration is going to collapse. And bring in new businesses where people are working for the good of the animals, the birds, other human beings, for the good of the community and society as a whole. Now, those businesses will flourish and prosper as we move through the transition. But the businesses that are ravishing the land, working only for their own self, working only for profit, they will collapse. And we have seen the start of it.
Well, because you take a look at something like what I had just asked, and you realize a lot of the trouble sometimes with the earth is motivated by big business profits. The government seems to be controlled for the most part by big business interests, and it leaves everybody else kind of sitting in the wings going, okay, well, what about us? And so there has to be a shift, because to me it seems we're more and more like, as you mentioned earlier in the program about Wikipedia, for instance, or WikiLeaks, that we're starting to kind of crawl out of this haze, if you will, about what's going on and being victims to becoming more active and proactive, saying, we've had enough of this nonsense.
Well, that's right. People power is going to be one of the things that comes forward from 2012. And we've seen it starting already. And so it was people power that freed Egypt. It's people power that's changing a lot of things. In the UK, for instance, where I live, the government proposed that they were going to sell off all the forests. And there was such a huge, outrageous response that they have dropped the idea completely. And people are going to start saying no to things now. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is going to rapidly increase, and governments are going to have to start listening to what people want. And this will happen. This is part of the process that's taking place. It's just that we think it's going to all happen now, this instant. And sometimes these things take a few years. I think a lot of the very big organizations and institutions will be no more in another 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they rapidly change and start to work for the land and for the people and animals. If they bring their vibration into line with where we're moving to, then that's different.
Fascinating stuff. The book is The Keys to the Universe. Access the ancient secrets by attuning to the power and the wisdom of the cosmos. Our guest today, Ms. Diana Cooper. Now, Diana, is there a website people can find out more about your work?
Absolutely. I have a huge, enormous website full of information. It's www.dianacooper.com. Very simple. And I answer questions all the time on it. I have a Facebook link to it, and that I also answer questions on. And so it's a very active and proactive website.
Well, Diana Cooper, thank you for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program.
I meant to say, I will be in the East Coast. Sorry. I will be in the East Coast in April, and I shall be going to New York and Boston, and all the information is on my website.
Well, very good. Well, Diana, thank you for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program. It's always a pleasure to know that things in the future won't be repeats of the past, especially when it comes to anxiety.
Well, no. And when people are anxious, then ask Archangel Uriel to help you, because he will work with your solar plexus and take out the fear so that then your confidence and your wisdom can come forward. And one of the things I put out for Egypt on my website with the guidance of Kumikar, my guide, was to ask the angels of Uriel to come in and touch every person in Egypt to help reduce the fear. And that's what hundreds and hundreds of people were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it helped enormously.
I kind of wonder sometimes if underneath what's going on in, let's say, Egypt, from an American point of view, is that Americans are saying, that's how we founded this country. And I think it's about time that we start doing the same thing for ourselves.
Well, I think a lot of people are going to start looking at their own home situations and say, wow, they can do it. What courage and strength. We don't want this anymore. We can do it too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, the time has come, that's for sure. Diana Cooper, thank you for joining us here on the program today.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
The book is The Keys to the Universe. You can find this on our website as well by visiting us on our blog. We'll have this archived, so if you want to pass that on to friends, listen to it at your convenience. It'll be available there on our blog. That's beyond50radio.com, the number 50. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to sign up for our free weekly e-newsletter as well. This is the Beyond 50 radio program. Remember, live your day past halfway.